The Economic Development Infrastructure Committee, I apologize for a little late. We had a little technical difficulty. Call the roll, please.
Charles.
Present.
Whiteburn. Here. Markham. Here. Cabell.
Here.
Spitz.
Present.
Miller.
Here. Have a quorum. Stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Now we have approval of the minutes, a committee meeting dated May 4th, 2022.
I move to approve the minutes from May 4th, 2022.
Moved by Commissioner Spiz, seconded by Commissioner Markham. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda from May 18th, 2022, as presented.
Moved by Commissioner Spiz, seconded by Commissioner Charles. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes. All in favor, all opposed, say aye. Ayes have it. All right. Now we have public comment. Anybody from the public would like to speak to the committee? Going once, going twice, 3 times? All right, we'll close public comment. Now we come to communications. We have three communications. The first one is Waterford Township resolution regarding Highland Park Water and Sewer Department. The second one is Wayne County Commission resolution number 2022-243. The next communication is local government critical infrastructure planning grant program oversight AHOC committee memorandum. Moved by Commissioner Spiz, second by Commissioner Wiper.
Yes.
Call the roll, please.
There's no conversation.
Oh. We can do that. So I apologize. Any discussion? I know we're running behind trying to
Oh.
get through it,
I
but,
can cancel the vote.
all right.
Start if you want.
So we got Commissioner Charles and Commissioner Spiz.
Okay. Can't see behind. Okay. That's all I need.
That's it?
I'm prepared to proceed. This is just a communication about something coming a
Correct.
little bit later. Okay.
Commissioner Spiz.
Yeah, I was just going to make a comment about item C in the communications, which was the local critical infrastructure grant that we approved a few months back for the 1 point, actually overall 2.4, but these groups was for the 1.9 for all the CVTs. There's 21 CVTs that, there's more than 21 submitted, but for that communication, there's 21 that were approved by that committee, which is what this communication is for, to spend that 1.9.
Yep.
There's more to be discussed a little bit later in the regular agenda.
Commissioner Wiper.
And just follow up, in communications, got all the CVTs that are listed with all the grant monies. That was something this committee did for using the federal money for planning assistance, critical infrastructure. So this is a really good item, so.
All right. Any other discussion? Call the roll, prompt the vote, please. All right.
6 yeas, 0 nays.
All right, communications passed. Now we have the consent agenda. First item is the road commission, or road improvement fiscal year 2022 appropriation with City of Clawson for Tri-Party Road Improvement Program, project number 56311. We also have road improvement fiscal year 2022 appropriation with the City of Rochester Hills for Tri-Party Road Improvement Program, project number 56711. The next one, we have road improvement fiscal year 2022 appropriation with Charter Township of Brandon for Tri-Party Road Improvement Program, project number 56782. The next one, we have road improvement fiscal year 2022 appropriation with the Charter Township of White Lake for Tri-Party Road Improvement Program, project number 56812. And the last one we have is road improvement fiscal year 2022 appropriation for Charter Township of Milford for Tri-Party Road Improvement Program, project number 56821. Moved by Commissioner Charles, seconded by Commissioner Wiper. Any discussion? Commissioner Wiper.
And just background, I mean, so everybody remembers that our board has put that tri-party in and the $2 million every year in the budget, and all of the communities really appreciate it. So here we've got 5 communities taking us up on tri-party that this board Other counties don't have tri-party. I mean, everybody thinks tri-party is in every county. We are the only county in the state that has tri-party, where the board is contributing to the community, so. People just assume every county does it.
Yes, correct.
This county's it.
Thank you for that. And then you're correct, that our communities do enjoy that
Mr. Chair?
and appreciate it. Commissioner Charles?
I thought I saw your hand. So I appreciate that, Commissioner Wiper. It's very illuminating for us newer commissioners. When do we revisit, recalibrate, take a look at again? Is it sometime annually? Does anyone,
Budget. Yeah, it's the budget time.
budget time? Okay.
We set aside the $2 million in budget time
Correct.
every year, so it should be coming up soon.
Well, that'll be
For
great.
discussion.
Because I talked with Commissioner Cavell over the last couple of days about some concerns that some folks raised in Royal Oak Township about just the burden of that match. And so I just want to make sure, now that I'm a little bit more acclimated to the system, I can make sure to ask those questions when we get to
Yeah,
that
that'd be
part.
great, because it's like, it's the road commission, it's the county, and the community, so it's like, it's good, they're getting their best bang for their buck.
Yeah.
So, thank you. Any other discussion? Commissioner Markham?
I'll just add to that, we also have the LRIP program, which is similar but does not include the road commission.
Correct.
And that's another $2 million. So that's actually $4 million that gets set aside every year by us for local roads. And the local community is the entity that determines which road gets fixed.
Correct.
So it's not me, the commissioner, it's my
Correct.
community decides they want road XYZ. So I think it's a great program. Our tax dollars at work. Thanks.
I agree. Any other discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, prompt the vote, please. That was for you, Commissioner Charles.
Yeah, 6 days, 0.
6 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. All right, so now we'll go to our regular agenda. The first one, Board of Commissioners presentation, Sheriff's Training Center Auxiliary Building and Dispatch Center presentation. Need a motion? Moved by Commissioner Spiz, second by Commissioner Charles. Good morning, welcome.
Morning, sir. Thank you, appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you, Mr. Chair, members. This is probably, without question, the number one priority that we have at the Sheriff's Office in terms of substantial need, in terms of generational change for not just the Sheriff's Office, but for all of public safety in Oakland County. You'll get down into the weeds a bit with our presentation that Captain Hill is going to give. But it's really, on so many levels, something that I think will help every police and fire department in this county do better, train better, be better prepared. You know, as we've seen tragedies, whether they've been active shooters like we've tragically experienced right here in our own county, or other kinds of events, the better training you have, the better you're going to have a good chance for an outcome. Not perfect outcomes, because it's a dangerous, unpredictable world, but and we also see that with terrible police outcomes like Minneapolis or elsewhere. A lot of those can very much be pointed at one of two things, either backgrounds or training, and a lot of those are training. You know, the incident where the woman officer was saying taser, 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 and then fired a firearm. That's a training issue, right? And so the more you can immerse people in real-world scenario training and make sure that they feel that stress, and if they're going to make a mistake, make it the mistake in training, the more likely when they get into the real-world situation, they may have a higher probability of executing well. So obviously the biggest concern is going to be price point, but again, it's a generational investment for public safety in this county, in my opinion. We haven't had a purposeful built training center for the county of Oakland ever. You know, there are some components that have been built with OCC, but nothing that was specifically built for police training for the whole county ever. And, you know, in a county like this, it's long overdue.
urging police departments
So-
to hire more officers immediately.
Just thought I'd play this.
Actually,
This
no,
was
it
this week.
works. We all agreed, as I've said from the outset, that the answer is not to defund the police. The answer is to fund the police with the resources and training they need to protect our communities.
The president is urging local officials to use unspent COVID-19 relief money to bolster departments. He met yesterday at the White House with police chiefs and mayors. I'm Pam.
So I'm the head of government affairs for Major County Sheriffs of America, and the White House, in conversations with me on multiple occasions, have encouraged communities to use federal monies that came to the county. I know that Macomb County directed $100 million to the Macomb County Sheriff's Office. So, I mean, however you fund it is a policy decision, whether it's going to be federal money or whether it's bonding or general fund. That ultimately will be a fiscal and a policy issue of the administration and the commissioners. I would just implore that we find a path. You know, there's obviously multiple paths available, especially with President Biden very specifically this week talking to us, telling us nationwide to use this money for police training, police facilities. So this facility would allow every police agency, and we're joined, and I think at least one of them are going to speak, but if you could just stand up and just let the folks know who you are.
Chief Jeff King, Farmington Hills Police Department.
Chief Mike Moore from the Royal Police Department.
Steve Cooper, Director of Public Safety for the City of Oak Park.
Chief Dennis Emmy, City of Fort Valley.
So we brought some of our partners, but, you know, our vision on this is pretty much like OTAC, that we are all one team. We train together, we work together. If it's my problem, it's their problem. If it's their problem, it's my problem. If it's my equipment, it's their equipment. And that's the way we'll view this training center, that every agency in this county will get time in the center, and we'll work together to create cooperative training that I think is critical for better outcomes, that is, again, my opinion, long overdue for a county of this stature. So that's kind of the broad thing of it. The components would include something for the executive's office, an emergency operations center that would handle anything from, you know, COVID to tornadoes. You know, it gets stood up in any emergency, and that's under the executive's office. And then that would be co-located with an emergency dispatch and operations center that we operate. Both of those facilities now are in a building that was built in the 40s, that was not purposely built. It doesn't meet federal guidelines, both for safety, security, or weather sustainability. So we don't meet any guidelines for those facilities to operate in an emergency. So this would co-locate both those facilities to deal with any emergency. Our operations center is also the fallback for any other 911 operations within the county, so that if theirs goes down, it rolls into ours, and we can pick that up seamlessly. So that's an important part of the process, to backstop each other, redundancy. And again, facilities, it's kind of embarrassing in a county like this. We have a video of a rat the size of this cute little puppy crawling across some of the artifacts inside of our central dispatch on a workday, and watching our professionals jump around to avoid a dog-sized rat in the building is a bit embarrassing. So we'd like to have a facility that is deserving our employees' hard work and the important work that they do in that facility. And then on the training side, you know, right now we use an abandoned middle school that has no backup power, only has part of the facility that's air conditioned. After the tragedy in Oxford, we called every public safety individual that was involved in that and offered them an emotional after-action debrief with trained professionals. And in the middle of that, when I was there at it, the power went out, and they were sitting in a completely dark, without air conditioning facility, talking about the worst day of their life. And I think that doesn't make sense for a county like Oakland either. So I found that incredibly sad and embarrassing as well. So I just think it's long overdue to get facilities that would not just serve the public safety community, but help the public safety community be in a better position to serve our constituencies. Anything at a high level, and I can kick it over to Captain Hill.
Yeah, I mean, you want to go through the presentation and then we can do questions?
Sure.
Good morning, everyone. Captain Todd with the Sheriff's Office. I apologize for the delayed start. I think that was partially my fault. I came nice and prepared for a lot of things. Linking through GoToMeeting wasn't one of them. There's a couple of videos that we have towards the end. If they work, great. I'll talk our way through because we had to cut the audio so we don't push a lot of feedback, everyone. There's also a small delay, and we're going to figure out that delay. So I'll start talking as we start going. What's that? I need to talk nice and slow, or start thinking ahead, right? So when you don't have brakes in your car.
Right.
So, plus that, as everyone see my dog, so I can just always refer to that.
Yeah, right.
So the Sheriff's Office is basically 20th in the nation in size. Thank you. Out of over 3,000. And there's kind of a need. There's a need for a number of different things. As we can see, my PowerPoint is not keeping up at all. That's okay. There's a need for the training center. There's a need for dispatch. And then there's a third need, and that need is for a strategic building or a strategic storage center or an auxiliary building. The packet that everyone has, and we can email out to those that are online as well, goes through kind of a very detailed details, and on the very, very end, there's some examples. So this isn't something that we're initially trying to figure out. This is something that we're replicating that other agencies that are our size, that are half our size, are trying to do or are doing. Well, this is not working at all. Do a quick little refresh, unshare, share. So nothing else. Woo, look at that. So that's really our need. And if that was a 12-minute delay, then we're really in some trouble. But as the sheriff said, there's a number of different things. Absolutely. Does yours? Oh, I'm good with what the presentation is. Yeah, I want everybody to see it. Oh, there we go. All right, so now we're cooking. So there's as the sheriff said, we are currently in our Brandon facility, if you will, but we're paying an annual rent of $144,000 annually, just to rent, and we're not getting really complete full use, nor do we have battery or generator backup. With AC just in certain rooms, we really have to limit our training in the summertime. Specifically because we're doing officer wellness, and I can't be putting people in an 8-hour class. And again, it's not just the heat rises to 74 or 78. We're talking about 80 and 90 degree weather inside the classrooms. So that's very difficult to conduct classroom, to do exercises and do some type of maneuvers and stuff that we can do with that. But it's very, very significant. The annual rent for the strategic facility, or where we're at right now, is Quality Pontiac. That's $152,000 to about $245,000 annually. If you haven't been over there, the pictures don't do it justice because it's not a great facility. How's that? And for us to be paying that much rent, for us to be paying rent at all is actually not, I don't think, fiscally smart. I think that owning a building that we could put everything in would be a little bit more fiscally responsible. And when I say everything in, I'm talking about not just SWAT equipment, not just auto theft, not just motorcycles and stuff from the sheriff's office. We're also talking about Homeland Security, Oakland County Hazmat Team. I believe Homeland Security is currently renting off-site storage facilities for their additional PPE. So all that can be stored in this area. And if it's co-located with the training center, we can include that in that space area. One thing that, and I'll start fast forwarding it even a little bit faster. One thing that Oxford did show us was that training paid off. The level of response, not just from the sheriff's office, but from the other agencies, both in and outside the county, was quite frankly seamless. To have groups of officers together that didn't ever even train together or didn't even know each other, and to form teams of 4, 6, 8 and start going and doing secondary and third searches of the building. And even our secondary search yielded about 200 kids that were basically bunkered in. So there is a significant importance of unified training, unified tactics, and a unified response. There's a pretty significant need. If the biggest area that I can present to is about 65 people without going to Oakland schools and having to rent their facility. So if you think about the size of our agency, with just over 1,250 gun toters, about 1,500 in size and staff, we don't have an area that we can even put a quarter of our staff at one particular time. So I think it's significant that we start looking at being able to not only train and have types of meetings or have types of ceremonies or have different events or conferences that would include not only a good majority or the size of our staff, but also for outside staff. As the sheriff said, the facility would be utilized by everyone within the county for free. I think that's important, that this isn't just a sheriff's office want. I think this is a collective want by everybody. One of the number one most important things, and it looks like my slides are starting to keep up a little bit, the number one thing that we actually don't have is a track. And I say a track, and everybody gets kind of freaked out, and they're like, oh my gosh, you don't need a NASCAR track. And you're right, we don't do highway patrol as our primary function, so we don't need a NASCAR track with on-ramps and off-ramps. What we do need is we need a roundabout. We need intersections, because that's really what the issue is having to not only initially train, but ongoing annual training or biannual training, along with remedial training. And a lot of times remedial training is overlooked, meaning you find an error or find a officer who does something that maybe a violation of policy, maybe isn't the safest way to do something, or maybe isn't the way that we train them. There's discipline that follows one track, and then there's training that follows another. As Gordon Graham said, predictable is preventable. So if we can start predicting where our problems are, we can start preventing them. And I think that the remedial training portion is significant. So honestly, the number one thing that we need, besides all of this, is really the initial step forward into securing a sized area that would allow us to have a track. A track and to do multiple things. We don't just need one skid pad. The sheriff's office trains every Wednesday, so we'll have motor unit training one place, we'll have driving training another place, corrections training another. So we need multiple areas just within that track facility as well. So if you start thinking about a little bit more on the drive track, an officer's engaged in a crash about every 18,000 miles. And if the officer lives about 45 minutes to an hour away from their work, for a normal patrol officer that's patrolling, that means they're driving probably about 18,000 miles a year between personal and driving work. So when we're talking about crashes, in my opinion, we're looking at emergency vehicle operations, not just pursuing, but standard emergency vehicle operations as probably the number one, right next to the ability and skills and efficiency of firearms, not only for the officers, but for the community and for the agency's liability. The next couple of slides I went through, I highlighted a few to include the Michigan State Police. They have a drive track facility. Again, theirs is a little bit more keyed towards entrance ramps and off ramps, and they have different types of circular patterns, if you will. They're very, very specific. What a lot of times people don't realize is down to the minute detail, training is usually done for a specific reason, meaning the size of the room that we use for a particular location, the amount of, if we're talking about simunitions or UTM, the amount of ammunition that we put in their pistol is for a specific purpose. So every little tiny planning is down to the minute detail and has a reason behind it. We put people in very specific areas, or for the ammunition, maybe it's not just cost, we're not just trying to save things. What we're trying to work on is the ability or be proficient in the first couple of rounds that they fire. The other thing, and round accountability right from the get-go. The other thing we're trying to work on is magazine exchanges, being able to put that weapon back in a battery. So when we're talking about reality-based training, the best reality-based training is one that you can try and replicate at its finest. the last portion that I have a couple videos on, and we can again send the link. It's a little bit longer. I think the complete video is about 20 minutes. It's at Washington County Sheriff's Office in Hillsboro, which is Portland, Oregon. So I've had the opportunity to go both the sheriff's office or with a couple of other companies that I had the ability to go visit different training centers and train at them. At Hillsboro, what they did was they basically created a hangar bay with about 30-foot ceilings. It's a very large facility. I believe it's 20,000 square feet plus or minus, and what they did was they actually paved the areas in there, and they put those specific buildings inside the building so they can do training. It's going to start catching up here in a minute, but so we'll start going through. So there's a couple other slides, like I said, and there's a couple other attachments to include Fresno Police Training Center, the Glendale Training Center. But like I said, there's something I think that's very beneficial at each of the different training centers. Washington County, I think they mastered the scenario village, if you will. Not only do they have, I think, 12 buildings inside, they also have an entire mock-up of their different facility, jail facility. They have their booking areas, they have their BMU areas, they have their pod areas, they have their single cells. And so when we're talking about training corrections officers in a particular environment, or even your booking officers coming into their booking areas, it's really important to actually train in those mocked-up areas. So we won't even attempt to play those videos since this is so slow.
The size of that compared to us.
So, yeah, and one thing to note, the sheriff was like, well, how big is that area? And it's about 650 officers that range, what did I say, like a little bit more heavy, I think, on corrections than patrol. So a little over 300 and something in corrections, a couple hundred in patrol, a little over 100.
Less than half our size.
Yes, sir. So, and again, I think on their website it says $20 million. When I talked to the officer that was in charge of the facility, he said it was more like $29 million. And again, when we start looking at big numbers, and I know these big numbers scare, and they scare me, I'm not going to be honest. But when I start looking at the liability of the agency and the liability of the county, you can look around to one catastrophic mistake by an officer. And if the agency is found to be liable because they either didn't train them properly or they didn't remedial train them properly, the last, I think, Detroit lawsuit that launched about 2 months ago for a vehicle-related pursuit, it starts at $50 million, and that's for one person that passed and perished.
And one of the first allegations in any litigation is fail to train. That's usually right out of the box, that there were better training capabilities or scenarios that were not utilized or employed.
So again, if you look at the back of that packet, I think the last set of photos is the Washington County. That's probably the most impressed I've been there regarding their scenario-based village area. The other thing is that they have a indoor firing range that they can actually drive their vehicles in, or have mock vehicles that are staged in there. And again, when we're looking at Oxford, we train, OCTEC trains to close that distance. And I think it's really important. We had a number of our different response drive directly to the building and not hit the building. I'll say that's a good thing. But directly to the particular doors that they knew that the suspect was at and that the most amount of casualties were at. That doesn't just happen magically. That happens from training. The other thing is that from all the after action reports, when we started looking at different active shooter responses, the amount of officers that would discard a car in the middle of a roadway and then cause havoc and dismay for the next responding officer was also a problem in past circumstances. In Oxford, we didn't have that problem. There was easy ins, there was easy outs. A lot of cars looked to the sides, were drove up on the grass. And again, that goes back to training. And it wasn't that we just told people to do that. We actually practiced that when we were out at Brown Road. So their response to the positioning of the car, how they got out of the car, and the way that they linked up inside is absolutely critical. One of the last things I want to discuss that I think I breezed over was that the importance of having indoor ranges is significantly important. This is Michigan, so we have a couple of different issues regarding outdoor ranges when we're talking pistol. when we're talking rifle ranges, honestly, we've got some major issues. There's really only 2 or 3 that allow for rifles to be shot, and usually most of them don't allow, township ordinance don't allow them to be shot before, or a rifle to be, a trigger to be pulled before like 10 a.m. Has to be done at sunset. So we're very limited on weather. We're very limited on the way that we can do rifle training. And I think to have an indoor rifle range that was 100, 200 yards long is absolutely significant. And I'm not just talking about a tunnel where you can shoot 1 or 2. I'm talking about where you can actually bring in a group and run a full patrol rifle. I like to equate that with ice time. So if you're not familiar with like hockey, right? Good luck trying to find ice time, right? You call out to the ice arena and you're like, hey, my team wants to train. And they're like, well, we got 2 a.m. on Saturday morning. Are you available? And you usually have to say yes if you want to actually skate. So I would imagine this is probably going to be the same way. If we build an indoor rifle range, the amount of departments that are going to be lining up and getting in line to train their people at an indoor rifle range all year round, it will be quite significant. So.
And to put an exclamation point on the driving portion, we used to do pit and training at the International Airport, Oakland International, on one of the side tarmacs, and it was kind of tearing up the asphalt a bit, and they were being polite, but we're no longer training there. So now we go and rent space in Livonia, and obviously on a training day, if you're driving an hour each way, that's 2 hours off training, now back out lunch. All of a sudden, you've got about 5, maybe 4 usable hours of actual training for a full 8-hour training day. And I know a lot of other agencies would definitely want to do that. And when he talked remedial, somebody has a fender bender in the snow, they can take them right out to the track in a snow-filled environment and say, let's go over it again. Those kinds of things are handy for everybody. And I know, I won't speak for everybody, but I know a lot of agencies have asked us to participate in training their people in pit and other kinds of things. So I'm sure the chiefs would answer their thoughts on that, but that makes a big difference too. And at some point, hopefully, you'll be able to see these videos, especially the one in Washington, because both the agency is less than half our size and the county is dramatically less population-wise. And that's the kind of facility that, we're seeing pop up around the country, and agencies and counties much smaller than ours. And that then goes back to the liability. If a plaintiff comes in and says, well, this county half your size has this facility and trained for this and you didn't, why is that? And that's where, you begin to get in deeper and deeper. So.
Yeah, I would, well, first, before we start discussion, I know Chief King has a hard time. He's got to leave from here. So if you want to, I know you want to. Yeah, please, grab a mic.
Sure, please.
And if any other chiefs want to speak, feel free right after Chief King.
I apologize for my lack of technology, but it's going to pay off, I believe. So I've got some prepared remarks.
It will pay off.
Boom.
That's all right. I'll take it.
It's going to label well.
I was embarrassed about not having the presentation. So thank you to the committee. Thank you, Chairman Miller, for the invitation to speak here today. Most importantly, for your interest in requesting an opportunity to meet with me and my staff, or my staff and I, apologize, to seek information and greater insight into what the law enforcement profession is going through and needs, what we're doing to improve the law enforcement profession, specifically at Farmington Hills, where I have some significant say in it. What we're doing to continue that is where we're at here. We're asking to continue and build on what we've already done. I have to acknowledge the Sheriff Bouchard, for his leadership and foresight in conceptualizing and implementing the Oakland County Tactical Consortium, or OCTAC. This program has transformed public safety preparedness in Oakland County, involving both police and fire disciplines, to be one of the top 5 regarded regionally trained, equipped, and prepared mutual aid emergency response counties in the nation. And that is a benchmark that we are all proud of for him creating that, both in active assailant response, civil disturbance emergency management, critical incident response, investigation, and management. This includes standardizing our training, notification, pre-event planning, response protocols, equipment, and incident command at a county-wide level. That serves as an example of what law enforcement needs, both at a local, county, and state level. But we cannot rest on those accomplishments. And at this point, we need to continue this training and level of preparedness at a countywide level. The Farmington Hills Police Department is blessed with sufficient resources and logistical assistance to support our cutting-edge training. Not every agency is as fortunate as us. They don't have those resources and training opportunities, and it creates significant safety concerns and possible response issues when public safety agencies in Oakland County respond to major critical incidents under mutual response situations. The benefits of a coordinated and consistent critical incident response is crucial to not only the safety of the public, but our officers. The development of a regional training center would provide significant benefits to all Oakland County agencies and residents, large or small, heavily resourced or not, to substantially improve and standardize the consistency and quality of that public safety training throughout our county. We know as law enforcement officials and officers, regardless of agency size, the quality of our equipment, department training, or staff size, no single agency can handle these critical incidents by themselves. Another aspect of this is the high liability and high risk incidents that we respond to on a daily basis. These incidents include any kind of a fatal force or possible fatal force, firearm deployment, which is a tragic example, is illustrated by the Oxford High School shooting. Another more prevalent and routine incident type is pursuit driving and emergency vehicle operations, as discussed. And I apologize for any redundancies in what I'm saying. We didn't coordinate ahead of time. So these actions are daily actions by our officers, whether they're responding to a child not breathing, a medical emergency, an armed incident, a assault. This was highlighted Monday night. After I got done presenting our budget, I was traveling on 696, and I saw about 13 police cars traveling westbound along 696 in excess of 100 miles an hour. They were in pursuit of a major auto theft ring that started in Macomb County, went all the way through Oakland County on 696, and I believe ended in Milford area. This type of an incident is participated in at that county level by multiple jurisdictions. Every one of those cars, that wasn't one agency doing that. That were multiple agencies picking up as these dangerous criminals were traveling through our jurisdictions, endangering our public, our families, our officers. I can't overemphasize the importance of training, as already discussed. Liability, the professionalism of our officers, efficiency of our operations, the safety of our citizens and our officers. I never want to put our officers' lives at risk, but that's what we do every day. And we do it for the safety of our citizens, the public. The personal development and management of our officers, that is something that is critical to us. Preparing our officers, both mentally and physically, with the training to go in and handle these major incidents. Another thing we didn't talk about is recruitment. When we're out there recruiting, which is significantly difficult across the profession, we are having difficult finding the qualified candidates to do the job, and not only to do the job, but want to do the job. When they see, you can't overemphasize the trauma that officers go through on a daily basis. And I'm not talking about the physical trauma, the bumps, the bruises, the injuries of fighting. I'm talking about how many deceased individuals can you see in a lifetime? How many deceased infants can you see in a lifetime? There's all these challenges that we're faced with. And the answer is not status quo training. The answer is more training, more advanced training, more coordinated training on a county level. And I don't want to speak for all the other chiefs, but I can speak for myself and my agency. The answer is more training. In 2020, when a lot of things were going on revolving law enforcement, a lot of our citizens asked, why are you doing more physical training, more subject control training? We went from 8 hours in Farmington Hills to 24 hours, which is uncommon in law enforcement. We added jiu-jitsu onto a Krav Maga training platforms. not with the intent of hurting people, not in the intent of doing anything bad, with the intent of making our officers fully trained and confident in their abilities to go out and do things where incidents don't escalate. When officers are scared because we're human and we get into a one-on-one confrontation, that affects us all. We all have families, we all have personal health and safety. What we've seen in all of our annual studies and analyses of our use of force is that better trained, better staffed police departments make better decisions when they're out there, they're wrestling in a one-on-one situation, not making any kind of a comment on the Grand Rapids situation, but in our department, we want to focus on 3 or 4 officers being there, not one. And it's proven to de-escalate the situations, to deter and decrease injuries to citizens and officers, and have better law enforcement outcomes with our community. That individual may go to jail, that individual may have a bump on his knee, or somebody might have a bruised elbow, but no one's getting hurt, both on the citizen side and the officer side. And so with that, I am fully in support of this training center, the need for it, the justification for it. I have some personal situations I can provide further explanation on, but if the committee has any questions, I stand ready to answer them and provide any kind of additional resources or information that you guys would have. And I thank you for your time.
Well, I appreciate you coming, and I appreciate the meeting. One thing that I learned that was like, I didn't even realize this. One of my good friends, I realized this part. One of my good friends in high school actually is one of Chief King's lieutenants, and he was explaining to me that if they're in an active shooter situation and they get shot, or they get shot at and they unfortunately have to shoot somebody, right? They actually have to, as soon as that's done and the threat's gone, they have to admit CPR, make sure, call EMS, so the person that just shot at them that wanted to take their life, they actually have to help them. And that was just like mind-blowing to me. It's like I never even thought about that, right? Because you see the movies, it's whatever, but actually that real-life situation is they go into help mode now, right? Just like if your grandma fell in the house, they got to help them, right? So they have to change that mindset, and just that, like he was saying, training and just the mental stuff they have to go through is going from life-threatening to I have to assist and help, right? And that just blew my mind. I was like, wow, that takes a lot of courage, a lot of like mental like ability to do that. So I appreciate what you guys do, and especially because you're in my community, right? So, and I know Chief King has to go. So if you have any questions for Chief King, feel free to ask, and we'll make sure all the other chiefs get an opportunity. But I know he has a hard time he has to leave.
Contract
Stop time.
negotiations.
Right. So I want to make sure he gets there for that.
But any questions, please feel free. Not only now, but after. I can drop off some cards. So.
We know where your office is.
That's what I'm afraid of.
The number's 911.
Thank you so much. And if any other chief would like to, Yep, go ahead.
If I could just also
Oh,
mention,
card,
I've got to chair the
trying to.
awards. It's Police Officer Memorial Day and Awards, starts at 10:30. So I'll have folks here to answer questions, and maybe the other chiefs could answer questions better than I. But if
Right.
you have a specific question for me, if I could answer it before I have to go next.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if anybody wants to ask Sheriff Bouchard a question real quick.
And just in training, we talked about pursuit and whatever. This is not like the old days where a person's just driving around in a big old car. These police vehicles you're like in a fighter cockpit, right? You got a computer, you got radios, you got weapons, you got threats from all over. I mean, it's not like the old days.
No, there's so many things that they are trained for, Narcan, all opiate overdoses, all the kinds of things, the AEDs for heart attacks. When I first started, it was face on, mouth to mouth, and chest compressions. There was no such thing as AEDs. There was no such thing as Narcan. It was just, a very different world. Now they're not only trained to do all this, they're expected to do it. And the only way you can get there is to give them the tools and the training to do what, sometimes they see on TV.
Yeah. So we got Commissioner Cavell and Commissioner Markham for Sheriff Bouchard.
Just real quick, because I know you have to go. I just want to make sure the numbers I've received or looked up online or talked through with our budget are accurate from Captain Hill and Gaia. Your training budget currently is about $3 million annually. And your overall budget's about 175, right?
168-ish, but we've cut it last year.
Okay.
And we're potentially cutting it this year, so I don't know where we are.
But
Yeah.
3-ish and 160-ish.
Well, 3 doesn't, that's the budget, that's not necessarily what we spent, because there's a lot of overtime that gets charged to that, so the budget and the actuals are two different
Okay.
things, so we
All
can
right.
have that.
So we can
conversation
figure that
on
out.
Monday.
Okay. And then the training department has 3 or 5 full-time employees. There's contracts and stuff, but it's out of 1,400 people in OCS, so there's 3 in the training department.
6.
Six
You have
in the
2
training
sergeants, you
department.
have 2 deputies assigned to the range, and we have 2 deputies, actually 3, so that's 7. Sorry, 7
Seven.
deputies.
Out of 1,400.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And so when you're looking at, and maybe this is where you're getting at, when you look at agencies like New York, LA, Las Vegas, San Antonio, about the average for our sites agencies should have about 26.5, 26.8 instructors. That's full-time instructors. That doesn't include supervisors. That 7 included 3 sergeants. So, and those 3 sergeants are doing a lot of administrative coordinating stuff. In fact, the majority of the actual instruction isn't done by them. That's where that operating budget comes in, because we don't have a training staff, we're hiring and training instructors that have normal jobs and duties that then come in on overtime to do the training. With a larger facility, and I know that comes with a larger staff, but what also comes into play then is the collaborative effort of instructors and collaborative effort, and I was talking to Chief King about even with just CIT, is that ability then for each officer or each agency to send and have someone helping out and instructing, whether they're instructing Oakland County or Farmington Hills or Farmington City or wherever it's at. And so there might be a different way, again, that costs money too, but
So
there's.
you need 26 to 28. You have 7, but there's 1,400 people.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Markham, then Commissioner Spiz.
Okay, thank you. I just want a clarification to something I think I heard, which is that when we build this facility, all of the departments in the region will be using it for free? Did you say that?
Oakland County.
I mean Oakland County, but
Yes.
yeah. They can, everybody uses it for free?
They're Oakland County taxpayers, they're Oakland County agencies, and they're Oakland County partners of ours. So our philosophy, since I've been sheriff, has always been what's mine is yours. So it's equipment,
I
it's
would just
training,
like to
it's anything.
discuss that in more detail going forward. I didn't understand that that's the way it was. I mean, with other stuff, the communities cough up their portion. And I agree that, police everywhere need to be trained properly and that we're the central organization for the county. I want to understand better how that works.
And as he mentioned, there's probably a way where they'll participate with some expense. If they have trainers, they will come with their staff to help the training. So we wouldn't necessarily have to have, now that you bring a host of other agencies to go from, recommended 26 to 46, we wouldn't have to do that because they'd be bringing trainers with them as part and parcel, and that's obviously a cost implication to them, but they have training folks that they have on their staff already, so we can, again, share our resources to do this
So your
cross-training.
answer is yes, and that's really all I needed to know today.
Yes, and
So thanks.
there's a couple different models, ma'am, and that have already been out there. There's a couple where, especially when we're talking about the agencies within the county, if it's a county funded, that they may have to fund some resources, like the ammunition and equipment that's being used, or maybe they're buying shared equipment. There's some other models that charge a very monetary low amount for internal, and then the external, anything out county, anything federal or state that isn't part of that county, then get charged at this regular rate that would be common and that they're willing to pay. That I don't want to say it'd be making money, but it'd be putting in a little bit at least into the green as opposed to always taking red. So there's a couple of different models out there that we could look at.
Well, we have a variety of communities. I mean, some of them are going to be much more able to participate financially than others. So it's just I was surprised to hear you say that, that's all.
I appreciate another opportunity to address this, but, giving credit to Sheriff Bouchard, we already have a model in place that works like that, and that's the OCTAC ASR, and as an individual who committed a lot of time for my agency to command or to conduct, I believe it was 350 command officers throughout this county in in supervisor management and seeing critical incident management over that incident for everyone in the county. That was Farmington Hills ate that cost. My agency paid me to go out there and train that, and we trained 350, I want to say almost 375 command officers from throughout the county annually, and we did it for active assailant response. Then we transitioned to civil disturbance response and management, and that was, Farmington Hills was able to do that. I was a lieutenant at the time, and they outsourced me to that group, but that is a shared resource by a lot of agencies in Oakland County. And I think we have 100 active shooter response trainers somewhere near. We have 9. Farmington has 2. Southfield has so many. Novi has 5. West Bloomfield has 3. Those staff costs and those training costs are coming out of our budgets. Not complaining at all, because it's a great program. And in law enforcement, we do like to steal other people's great ideas and not reinvent the wheel. Well, Sheriff Bouchard has implemented this at that level, and it is working, and it has propelled us to probably the top 5 prepared counties in the nation. So,
I don't disagree with anything you said. I just wanted to understand it better, and I don't want to get in the way of your ceremony either.
Well, our
with
folks
more
were here. I
detail.
just wanted to answer any questions that were specifically for me, but we'll still have smarter people than me, which is one of the most important things I try to do, hire people or promote people that are much smarter than me.
Thank you.
So thank you for your time, because, we think this is so super important, and I appreciate you looking into this.
Yeah, so we'll let you guys go, but you got to thank you so much, and we can proceed with any other questions as well.
Yes, sir. Thanks.
Thank you.
He's got the pledge.
That's right. All right, so now let's, does any other chief want to speak on this, or feel free?
Please.
Yeah, you all can come up at the same time if you want. We'll arm wrestle who goes first.
I'd like to say good morning to the commission. Like I said, I didn't prepare a statement, but I feel I'd be remiss if I didn't come up and actually say a couple words. My name is Steve Cooper. I'm the Director of Public Safety for the City of Oak Park. I have been employed with the City of Oak Park for the past 32 years, and I've been a Director of Public Safety for the past 10 years. And we have the distinct honor of being a public safety agency. So we supply both, provide both police, fire, and medical emergency to the entire community of Oak Park. Sheriff Bouchard is definitely a Gold Seal leader as far as law enforcement. Under Sheriff Childs has left, as well as a lieutenant in the whole Oakland County Sheriff's Department, just have been wonderful. The need for this facility, I won't continue to just reiterate it, but it is, you can't afford not to do it. I mean, the times that we're policing with here in law enforcement, training, like the sheriff said, was the absolute #1 liability that you're looking at as far as law enforcement agencies. We had the honor and pleasure of partnering with the Sheriff's Department for many years for many different things, and I can't reiterate enough where we would be if it was not for Oakland County and the Sheriff's Department. Like I said, it's a great proposal. Hopefully, I know budgets are always tight, and that's always the #1 thing as far as financing. And Oak Park is always willing to do its share. As Chief King said, we also have several instructors on the OCTAC team that actually serve as instructors. So nobody's trying to get a free meal. We're all willing to pull our weight to whatever degree we have to. But like I said, it's an awesome opportunity. And in this day and age, I don't see how you could not afford to do it. So, again, thank you for your time. If you have any specific questions for me, I'd be more than happy to answer them. If not, I'll yield to my colleagues here.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Dennis Emmy. I'm the Chief of Police from the City of Ferndale. I've been with the department for over 25 years, and I've been the chief since 2021. So we have a long-standing partnership with the Oakland County Sheriff's Department. And frankly, departments our size would not be able to put out the quality policing, the quality trained officers that we have. These partnerships are critical for departments and city communities our size. We are a firm believer in regional partnerships, and we've committed resources, even though we're only 43 sworn officers. We commit officers to Oakland County, violent crimes, narcotics, SWAT, mobile field force, active shooter response, OPTAC. We are all in this together, and we pay memberships to belong to the SWAT team. We pay memberships to belong to OPTAC. We contribute officers as instructors. This is a partnership, and facilities. It is a challenge. I know in my own community we're dealing with, in some cases, 100-year-old facilities, and it's a challenge moving forward. The price tag is expensive. We are setting up the next generation, next 2 or 3 generations for success by being the leaders we are today, recognizing that we can't kick this can down the road anymore, and it's time to make some difficult decisions. We're having to make them in our own communities. Recognizing the need and knowing that we can set up the future generations of law enforcement and public safety professionals with the best facilities and training that this nation can provide, it is absolutely critical for Oakland County. And I just want to, obviously, I support the concept and the idea, and I only wish my department was a little closer to Pontiac. But this is certainly something that's long overdue. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just keep it brief. My name's Mike Moore. I'm the Chief of Police from Royal Oak. I just want to piggyback on some of the partnerships. We host several large-scale events in Oakland County. We have the Woodward Dream Cruise. We have Arts, Beats, and Eats that draws hundreds of thousands of people to my community. And the partnership with the Sheriff's Office is unbelievable. We train together. We go back and forth and share resources. We supply trainers to things. And to continue that partnership forward and be able to expand the way we train together, I think is I can't understate the importance of that. And just as a side, we have trained together in Oakland County for active shooter response to sort of make sure everybody's operating from the same sheet of music. And just knowing that Royal Oak is not close to Oxford, I had 4 of my staff there that day. So everybody responding the same way with the same training and knowing exactly how to operate, I think speaks volumes. So I'm just here today to show our support and just kind of stand together and be happy to take any questions.
So any discussion for the presentation on a whole, or for any of our chiefs up here? Commissioner
I
Spitz.
do have my question.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if you will be prepared to answer it or not, but I will ask it away.
Yes, sir.
I don't think it's any surprise or secret that I've been fully supportive of this project since day one. And the
Secret's
need-
out.
And the need of it.
It's recorded.
And the need of it here in Oakland County. The only question that's really been out there is the scale of the project, right? So the $1 million question is, where are we on the feasibility study so we can get that scale and understand what we're really looking at for this project?
Speaking with Matt McDougall from FMNO, I believe the feasibility study is slated to be done by November. Currently, right now, I believe it's in a feasibility. It's in a sustainability portion. I know we just gave a questionnaire for the EOC, for dispatch, for the strategic auxiliary building, and for the training center, separate ones. Kind of what our needs were, and it from going back through some previous ideas and proposals, it looks like there is some idea, and I know my idea is maybe a little bit farther out there, but again, every single thing has a reason, and I say that because usually the largest or the biggest laugh I get is the asking for a pool, And my thought is, there's a couple of reasons, right? Like, the sheriff's required to have a certain amount of things, and one of them is a jail, one of them is a marine division, which the pool is water, and then therefore marine, lakes, water, right? So training officers how to do certain things, operating a dive team efficiently. And again, every single request has multiple reasons behind it, all the way to the fact that it's easy to have a helo-dunk machine, which is basically, we have a helicopter, we pay for to use specific facilities that basically train the officers how to get out of a helicopter once it's gone underneath, gone in the water. And having a Marine Corps background and being on a helo team, I understand the necessity for that, and that's not easy training. So that's something we can do. Right now, our dive team trains in the murky, mucky water. Don't get me wrong, there's better ways to train in a pool. You put dark out glasses on once you master those skills. But to hope that people master skills in what they think is the clearest of all waters is probably not the best place for us to do training. So even those little fine details, that's where I think it's at. I know that one of there was a number of different considerations and discussions, but my number one priority is to really find a suitable location that has the ability to build this at the scale that we need to, even if it takes multiple years to build. Because quite frank, and everybody, even my own instructors say, well, we're 7 to 10 years away from using that. And my thought is, we're 1 year. Well, if we can get that facility, the first priority is to build that drive track, right? You build that drive track, and there's different ways, different funding mechanisms and different ways to do stuff. But if we can just secure the property and now start planning that site plan out and have that facility, we can be using this drive track within 1 year. Now, granted, we might be in a trailer on the other side of the drive track while there's maybe multiple constructions happening or different things going on, or maybe the construction building, the dispatch takes priority, or whatever the case is that comes back from the needs assessment. I'm good with that, because the answer is it's still coming. It's just coming in multiple years. But I can't stress the importance of a dry track facility that allows for remedial training. The remedial training program that we are trying to adhere to is within a week of discovering someone has poor driving skills or violated policy, is to have them back in remedial training. Discipline's something different. Remedial training needs to happen, because while they're waiting for discipline or while they're waiting for different things, they didn't understand what they did wrong and how not to do that again. Not to find out 3 months down the road that they actually did it 3 more times or 10 more times. So again, I know it's a long answer. I tend to get winded, so just yell at me. But I believe the
Short answer is November.
short answer is yes, sir.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Cavell?
Yeah, I'm kind of struggling here because I don't understand. There's kind of like 2 parts to this. And also, hey, Director Cooper, sorry I didn't see you earlier.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
But I'm not understanding, there's kind of like these 2 things every time you're talking about this, including today. There's this, we are the, as was said, the best trained, right?
Yes, sir.
The Oxford response was seamless.
Yes, sir.
Chief King, top 5 in the country. Unbelievable partnership.
Yes, sir.
So other than like a cleaner facility that doesn't have the rats or that has like adequate air conditioning or like a generator for electricity, you need a facility to do more training, but you're already doing it and it's top 5, stellar, seamless. So this is a nice to have, not a need. Or, you know, because this is what I'm not grappling with. Or you need to boost your training department, because as you just said, it's a department of 7. It should be 28 to maybe, as the sheriff said, 46 or whatever. So you want us to give you, according to this, like 28 to $100 million to trust you to get there when you've had plenty of time to make your training department whole. But also, you don't need to improve the training. You see where I'm kind of.
Yes,
can
sir.
you
I
help
know
me?
exactly.
Yeah.
And what I don't want you to confuse is I don't want you to confuse the drive and dedication of the training unit and of the other agencies that desire to have that top-notch level. I would consider us to be a bronze or silver standard. The problem I have is that we don't have the facilities to do training, so we find other ways because we don't know the word no. And when I say find other ways, well, I'm going to say that maybe I close a parking lot that I probably didn't have permission to close. And then we just commandeer this particular parking lot on our area, our complex on a Saturday or Sunday that no one knows about to do remedial training.
But see, that I get that.
But I'm not
So-
supposed to be doing that, sir, is what
Right,
was my
but-
point.
But then the solution is, again, $28 to $100 million so that you can have, not to commandeer a parking lot, or you can have a pool instead of using one of the 5,000 lakes in Oakland. You know what I mean? This feels like a nice to have, not a need, especially when we're talking about the 36,000 businesses in Oakland County that are trying to recover. We're talking about children trying to get back to school and learn. We're talking about people trying to level up their education. That's all. I just want to throw that out there to the group.
If I may, I don't think the sheriff's department and any of our agencies should be penalized for being resourceful. I don't think they should be penalized for being committed professionals and getting the job done in the face of adversity. I think that shows creativity. I think that a centralized facility like this, obviously it benefits people in terms of wasted travel time, rent being paid. Currently, I speak for my own department, I have to travel to Macomb County and pay a private facility for facilities that would be, I want to say it's not free, it's on the taxpayer, but we're all Oakland County residents and taxpayers. I think that this will boost recruitment, pride. We are struggling to get people into police and fire service. Having facilities like this attracts the best candidates. Do you want someone who's at the bottom of the barrel showing up to your house when you have an emergency, or do you want the best of the best? We're making a commitment to train the best people, recruit the best people, and give professionals the best facilities and treat them with respect and give them the tools to be successful. And I understand that there is a substantial investment, but like the captain was saying, 3 fiscal years, 4 fiscal years, 10 fiscal years. If it's started and it's built in phases, I think it's sustainable. And I know those are tough decisions, and that's why you sit in these chairs. We know that there's competing programs. But I don't think that we should diminish the importance of this one. That's just my opinion.
If I could add on to what Chief Emmy said as well, there's liability that comes with subpar ad hoc type training facilities that you make doable. This is not something that is, I know Commissioner Cravell, you were saying this is something that may be a want and not a need. I 100% disagree with that. I think it's 100% a necessity. You have to be able to train your people in a proper facility, in a proper environment. I may have, a house and the roof is pouring down rain and I got a tarp over it. That's not acceptable. It's not acceptable to have your staff, in a facility with no air, and you're talking about temperatures in excess of 85, 90 degrees, or not have proper lighting. A lot of that comes with liabilities as far as officers being injured on the job that you don't see or hear about, that sometimes these are career-ending injuries. I'd hate to put a dollar value on that to say that 28 million or whatever the amount is not worth it to invest in this type of facility. When you talk about any community, your law enforcement, your public safety services are your biggest liabilities that you're ever going to incur. And I challenge anybody to speak differently. And in order to train your people correctly and properly, you need to give them the proper tools to do that in a proper environment. And I think that's all that the Sheriff's Department is actually asking for. And as we, as partners in the law enforcement and the public safety community, are echoing those sentiments. So again, I don't think this is a want or a luxury. And as Chief Emmy was saying as well, just because we've overcome some of these obstacles and have managed to, still be a top-tier county, that you look at that and say, well, then, we can just, brush this to the side because we have other needs where we can spend these other dollars. Those dollars need to be invested in law enforcement and the public safety profession. It's long overdue, and I think that needs to happen, sooner than later. to be honest, immediately. It's just my opinion.
So I have, in response to what you both are saying, I just have two quick things that, so one, I think is just a little ironic if we all recall from our time in local service, if any of us run city councils and stuff, that you all make up at least a third of your local budgets, and you're talking about being penalized by not getting what you want or not getting more, but you are by far the biggest line item in your local communities. So that's first, stop. So second.
Whoa.
Charlie, come on.
It's out of order.
All right.
That's out of order.
All right.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chief Emmy. The second point I was trying to make is that you're talking about making things happen in uncomfortable situations. And I understand that's a problem. But what we're not hearing, because we're not able to have these people come to speak before us, are the kids that are in 85-degree schoolrooms, or the social workers that worked in those schools, or the people in the communities that are also needing funds and support and government assistance in all sorts of ways. So I just want to make sure that that's recognized by everyone, that yes, you get to be here, but you're not being penalized. That's all.
So just, if I can just address that, so the reason why there's no AC in the Brandon schools and there's only AC in the office and the library is because there was no school after June, and it would start back in August. So I'm telling you that, yeah, if I stop training between June and August, we're good to go. Like, I would continue to use that, and we do continue. Don't get me wrong. The reason what I was specifically saying was our 4-month-long training that we're doing for the entire agency is 8 hours of classroom. And that 8 hours of classroom, I can't have up in Brandon training facility, not during those summer months. That's all I was saying. And that it's a large line item that we don't have, and quite frankly, I'm not so sure that's fiscally responsible for us to put into a building that we rent and we don't own. So there's a whole other quandary that we have behind there. So that's the reason I was talking specifically about how air conditioning applies.
Commissioner Charles and Commissioner Space.
Yeah, thank you. I had to double check. This is a receive and file because I was like, I'm missing a lot of details. But what I want to just say, officers, is first and foremost, happy birthday to Southfield Chief Barron. Today's his birthday. And as a former school board trustee, our superintendent would often come to us with the need for something she presented. And my philosophy and policy back then still rings true today, which is I can't do your job. And if you tell me this is what you need for you to be successful with your job, and then I say no, when it comes to doing the renewing of contracts and children aren't learning and teachers aren't happy, then whose fault is it? Is it that it wasn't properly funded, or is it that we didn't support our superintendent? So I'm team public safety for, forever, because you guys have been the ones who've had to help me when my mom was unresponsive in our home, deceased. And, I think about what you said about the officers, how many dead bodies and how many dead babies. I mean, we don't really think about that as lay people, as just general citizens. So I'm pretty much going to always lean in on supporting training. I'm very pleased to hear President Biden say that it was never about defunding. I'm tired of hearing people on the other side of the aisle even bring that to us. This committee, my caucus here at the county, has been very, very supportive of Sheriff Bouchard, of law enforcement, making sure that we give you guys the tools that you need. So because I don't see much, I know there's more coming. I just wanted to make my comments clear that keeping us out of the news, keeping us out of court, keeping us out of orange jumpsuits are all incredibly important to me. And I have been able to say confidently, even after the Loyola situation and this terrible tragedy in Buffalo this past weekend, and tragedies at churches, all of these soft spots that people are targeting, there's no way I can say no right now to you guys being properly trained. I don't care if it's Marine, aviation, air, water, all those things are so critical. So as long as you keeping us out of the news and keeping us a little out of the legal spaces, I will be happy to support. Just want to make sure that honor our green spaces, and if there's facilities that are available to us, using something to that effect. But I'm encouraged, and I'm happy to keep the conversation going. I appreciate what you brought to the table, Mr. Cavell, because we can't just be yes people. It's important to have that pushback a little bit. So that's just my comments.
Oh, thank you. Commissioner Space.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make a couple comments on what Commissioner Cavell said. I believe you guys and all the law enforcement agencies around the county have been doing a bang-up job with the workaround, with the tools you have at hand. And it only takes one thing to mess up before that all falls apart. And if morale breaks or something breaks, and because you're doing a workaround, I see it at my day job on things. We've been doing a great job on this, but you only do that for 5-6 years, and all of a sudden, everybody starts to deviate in another direction because they're frustrated, pissed off, because they don't have the tools that they know they need to do the job that they have been doing, and they've been working around it for so long. It's like, you need the tools to do what you need to do. But the big question, Charlie, to get your point, is the scale, like I asked about. What is it? I mean, the range you gave was what, 28 million to 100 million? That's a huge scale. We really can't have any real good discussion until we understand what that feasibility number is. Maybe we start off and phase it in a couple years, or maybe we do a different direction. And Charlie, your point, yeah, there are many different projects or topics in this county that we need to tackle, and we continue to tackle them. To me, public safety is one of them, if not the top one in that. I have many projects that are near and dear to my heart, which all of you know, based on what happened up in Oxford. Right. And public safety is one of those for me. And I will do what I can to get you guys the tools you need to do the best job you can. Will it be perfect? And that's where we have to make some tough decisions on what we need to do today, what we need to do tomorrow, what we'll do in 5 to 10 years from now to make sure we're always improving. From a public safety standpoint, we should always be in the front of the line to do our best to be not only leaders in the state of Michigan, but leaders in this country. We're top 5. I'd like to stay in top 5. I mean, I'd like to shoot for number 1 if we can get there. I'd like to be the benchmark that everybody comes out and wants to look at. And that's a good goal because that only helps our citizens within the county. And building something like this, once you stop that workaround, you gain so many other things that you cannot put on paper. So many other efficiencies that you gain. Your resources are a lot more effective, right? Your morale goes up, not down, when you give some things like this. Even and you don't have to go the full scale, like you said, you phase it in. Even if they see that plan, they see that structure, they see that you're looking out for them, they all, I mean, I hate to say this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Sometimes you build it, they will come type of mentality. They say, okay, Oakland County is putting these things in place to continue to be the leader in the community, continue to be a leader in the state of Michigan, to continue to be a leader in this country, so that we can continue to get those officers, that want to come in and work for the county. I think it's very important to have those type of things out there that drive morale, drive effort, drive efficiencies, drive everything, so that we can continue to be the leaders. Thank you.
Commissioner White.
Just follow up, you talked about the liability, you talked about recruitment. With these tragic mistakes from lack of training, we lose respect for police. And it's not going to be sustainable to have good public servants if we don't have the training and these mistakes happen. And that is not only his liability, but then nobody wants to be a police officer. And we want respect for the society. It's got to be sustainable, so. It just pays off in the long run, training.
Any other discussion?
Move to receive and file.
Yeah, we've got the motion in the second. It's already been.
Okay, we're good.
So receive and file?
Yes,
Sure.
receive and file.
Well, I just want to say I appreciate you guys coming before we take the receive and file vote, and being going through the apprenticeship with my local, and we're always buying property around us because you can never have enough, right? I mean, for training, like we have the biggest sand pit in Michigan, right? We got 600 acres out in Howell, and Oak Tech's been out there. We partnered with Musar after 9/11, and I'm sure a few of you have been out there. So I appreciate you coming, presenting, and taking the questions, because there are hard questions, right? I appreciate that, taking our fire, right? So we'll just take the vote to receive and file. All in favor, say aye. Fire. All in favor, say aye.
I prompted, I apologize.
Oh, we're prompting. And, yeah, we look forward.
Send us an electronic copy of that, please?
I can. I will make sure that it's Dropbox, and then I'll also have a separate link for the entire video.
Thank you.
In the video is kind of clipped for specific things, but you can watch the entire thing.
Thank you.
Yeah, again, we appreciate you coming, and as well, look forward to future presentation meetings and working towards hopefully a resolution and where we can all have an agreement. Thank you so much. And thank you, gentlemen, for joining.
Commissioner Cavill, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
I'm just seeking clarification
You're
because I
good.
wasn't understanding
My bad.
where you're, what you were asking.
Okay. No, my
All
bad.
right, we're almost
I
done.
apologize. And if you
Everybody
want
thinks we're
to
done, but-
come see my budget anytime, I'll show you exactly where it is.
I'm trying.
24 operations, 24 hours a operation is costly. It's in all staff. Very little capital, very little program. All the benefits of that.
So where are we at in the agenda?
Staffing studies I can show you. So, for the, what our residents and what we want.
All right. Okay. All right, we'll move on to the next agenda item, economic development lease for Warbirds of Glory Museum.
Hey, Cheryl.
I'll move.
Moved by Commissioner Charles, second by Commissioner Spiz. All right, any discussion? Ms. Cheryl Bush, hey, there she is. I was looking around the room. Welcome.
I got the message to arrive by Zoom, so.
Hey, that's all right, yeah.
That's all right. Great, well, good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, everyone. This morning we have a land and building lease for our Oakland Southwest Airport. This agreement is with the Warbirds of Glory Museum, which is a very interesting nonprofit organization that is restoring World War II aircraft, actually. They've recovered a very interesting airplane, a B-25, out of a sandbar in Alaska. Brought it back here to Oakland County to restore it with the original parts and with the eventual goal of getting it flying again. So they have an interesting model where they bring in high school students and teach them mechanical skills and try to interest them in aviation and restoring what they say are American values. So we are excited to bring them to Oakland Southwest Airport. We think it'll bring a little bit of life into the airport that it needs, a little shot in the arm out there. And it's a 5-year lease. It's a $13,500 rent value per year. The rent will start in October. We've been working with them, and we negotiated a 3-month abatement of rent starting July 1 to August to allow them to come in and get themselves set up. They're going to do some modifications to the building so that it will work for them. And I think we're, like I said, very excited to have them come. So if there's any questions.
Any discussion? See, oh, Commissioner Wiper.
They're gonna get going right away? I mean, they've already got this stuff and.
Yeah, they've actually been working out of his garage out in the Howell area, and they've outgrown their space. And so that's when they approached us. They also have a very large parts inventory, and they will be setting up a museum-type display in the lobby area. So it'll be something that you'll want to check out.
I've been charter member of the World War II Museum in New Orleans, and I like this kind of thing, so I'm all for it. This will be great.
Well, as someone who had to Google Warbird, I think it's fantastic.
All right, any other discussion? Seeing none, prompt the vote, please.
Yeah, 5 yeas, 0 nays.
5 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Next agenda item, thank you, Ms. Bush, sorry about that. Next agenda item, Board of Commissioners resolution opposing the imposition of Highland Park's water and sewer Debt on Oakland County Communities. Moved by Commissioner Spiz, seconded by Commissioner Charles. Good morning.
State your name for the record.
Could we hand, hey, Mike, could we hand these things out to everybody? While we're doing that.
He looks familiar, I'm just not sure. You look familiar, but I don't know.
Yeah, we need you, a small business owner. We need you to introduce yourself, sir, please.
Please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Charles Joseph Moss. I am the president of the Birmingham Dachshund Club.
Welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, the committee, this is a resolution. You should have copies of it in your packet. And essentially, it starts out by talking about the situation. I think we all are pretty familiar with it. In November of 2012, the Highland Park water facility was closed down by the state of Michigan. They were going to make a couple of repairs and take a few days. It still is unrepaired. It is still sitting there mothballed. Highland Park City then connected to what was then the Detroit Water and Sewer Department, which is now the successor or the predecessor of GLEWA, or the Great Lakes Water Authority, which what emerged from the bankruptcy. Highland Park simply has just not paid ever since. And the revolt's kind of been growing. It's been 10 years, first out of Macomb, secondly down Western Wayne. This is Oakland County. The resolution, you look, sets it up with the whereases. In the be it further resolved, essentially, it just is it's very simple, fairly innocuous. It was the state of Michigan that created the situation. I believe it was originally, it might have, 06, that would have put it in Governor Granholm. It continued through Governor Snyder. It is now Governor Whitmer. It's the state of Michigan's, they started this. It's up to them to fix it. So we are requesting that the state of Michigan and GWA, this is the first now, therefore, we all do not require Oakland County and the 86 other paying communities to pay for it. Number two, basically asking Governor Whitmer just to fix this. It's the state's responsibility. The state has made it happen. Let's let the state do it. Number three, create a system that the debts of the non-paying customers don't get charged to the paying customers. And number four, we express our support to the Oakland County communities, our CVTs, in their efforts to resolve the situation. And then finally, the fifth is to please forward a copy of this to all people. Let me point out what it does not say. It does not tell the governor of the state how to fix it or what to do. It does not tell our local communities how or what to do to resolve. For instance, to suggest there are communities that are putting their portion into escrow. I don't believe that's our job to tell them that, simply to tell them that we support their actions. Now, what you've put out, oh, look at that, I sent my own versions around. The first is the first packet, if you will, is a letter from Oakland County Water Resources Commissioner Jim Nash to the governor, essentially saying this. This resolution would be, in essence, supporting, thank you, the position that Mr. Nash has taken. And then beyond this is the three tables. Is the cost, I believe, at the end is the total 10-year figure for all the communities involved. Now, the communities are broken down by drainage districts. You have Clinton, Oakland, you got Evergreen, Farmington, you got George W. Kuhn, Commissioner Kuhn's Uncle George. And so just to kind of bring it all together, the second one is a Excel spreadsheet that I put together that just combines them all. You have all the communities that have paid. First column is the Clinton, Oakland, the Evergreen, the GW Kuhn, and finally the total. So you'll be able to find out what our communities, your communities, have been paying to support Highland Park. And the one thing that jumps out at me, which is the most angering to me, is if you will look down and you will see Royal Oak Township, which is a community that I would say is challenged as well. They're paying their bills and they're supporting and they're subsidizing Highland Park. That's just wrong. These numbers are not small. We all have issues. So I'm requesting the committee to pass this resolution on, and it is relatively innocuous, I'll say. It basically just says governor made the problem. I mean, the governor didn't. The state made the problem. The current governor, it's the job of the governor and the state to step in and fix it. Please fix it. And number two, we support our locals that we in however they choose to deal with it, but we're not going to tell them how to do it. So thank you to the committee. Committee's pleasure. If you have any questions, great. Otherwise, I would request that you act favorably.
We'll turn it over to the water resource. While you're sitting there, just.
Oh, I thought I said I can't be Jim Nash. I have a beard.
No. Good morning. There he is. Hey.
Good morning.
Mr.
No, absolutely. There's been some movement. There's the governor sent a letter, and the GLEWA has responded. I'd love to hear kind of Jay's perspective on that because I haven't had a chance to talk to her since then. But again, there's some movement, and I feel good about that. But we'll see where it's going, and I'm hoping that we can work together with the region to settle this. So I'd be really thrilled to hear more from Jay.
Good morning. I think still morning. Hi, I am Jay Quadrosi. I am Oakland County's representative on the Great Lakes Water Authority Board, currently sit as the chair of that board. Commissioner Nash indicated that there has been some movement. That is correct. There has been as some of you know, and certainly as Commissioner Nash knows, this has an incredibly long history. It has morphed into multiple pieces of litigation that are still pending in several different courts, and there has been a strong attempt by GLEWA to try to engage the state in resolving the past issues, but the primary focus is to coming to some sort of resolution for going forward. So there's been a lot of action. It is not limited to this particular time frame. I think as Jim will tell you, this has been an issue that has raised its head in different ways over the period of the entire existence of GLEWA, because this has been an issue since before GLEWA was formed, and obviously continuing. But the efforts to engage the state were intensified the beginning of this year. The Great Lakes Water Authority staff, executive staff, did have a meeting with representatives from the governor's office. That resulted in a communication we got from Governor Whitmer, I want to say last week, Thursday or Friday, very end of the week. Basically, the state would like to try to not have to be involved in resolving this, if I'm being blunt. And I'm certain there are lots of reasons. You all are politicians that you probably understand better than I do. But we took that letter, the GLEWA board, as well as the GLEWA executive staff, took that letter as an indication that there was at least some interest in trying to come up with a resolution moving forward. And so because that happened last week, Thursday or Friday, and we had not had a board meeting, there is going to be a presentation of this issue at the board. There is, GLEWA responded because the governor's request was basically try to do something to make this so that your constituent communities, your customers, do not have to bear this expense. That is something that we have done in the past as long as we possibly could. You all, I'm sure, the committee that you're on, understand the world of finance and the fact that when you have a bad debt situation, there are rules in your audit that mean that bad debt has to be dealt with. So we tried to do as little as we possibly could. And the governor has asked us to continue that. So we are going to try to relook at some of the cost increases that would be in the fiscal 23 timeframe. So it hasn't happened yet, or it would have just happened beginning in, I think, June. So we are going to, as a board, relook at that issue. We are cognizant of the fact that this has caused quite a bit of concern at the communities. You should know that in connection with rates, this Highland Park bad debt is an issue that has been included in rates for years in the past in a very, very transparent way. It just kind of caught on fire, I will say, this go-round of rates, which is why we saw a lot more action, like the resolution that you are looking at, the one that Western Wayne did, and the publicity that you are seeing from Macomb County. That is not to say that just because it was done in the past means that it is something that we are happy about, but I do want you to know that this is something that has been included in rates for a much longer period of time than just this particular rate setting season that would begin for the 2023. So we are going to, at the governor's request, go back and look and see if we can allocate additional resources to at least, I will say, toll the issue of having the Highland Park bad debt be allocable to other communities. And then we are going to, continue to keep our sleeves rolled up to engage with the governor's office, to engage with legislators, because there are several legislative efforts floating around in Lansing to try to come to some sort of resolution. We are working hard with Highland Park and with representatives from Wayne County. Everybody is working hard at this. We did get a ruling from a judge in one of the cases, actually sort of the day before we got the governor's letter, that basically upheld the position that GLEWA and DWSD had been taking all the way along, which was that the rates that were being charged to Highland Park were appropriate. And Highland Park has been ordered to resume making payments. We are hopeful that that will also spur some continued action towards a resolution. But at the bottom of this, I would say that we are all very, very concerned about the effect of this on the operations of GLEWA. Obviously, again, you guys understand that we are, Jim, what is it? 40% of the rates are attributed to debt repayment. That is a number that we constantly are trying to drive down. We have been successful since the formation of GLEWA and coming in with basically junk bond status to have continued to make inroads into that. But what we don't want to do is find ourselves in a situation where we suffer a downgrade in ratings and are unable to continue the successful progress that we've made to sort of pull out of where we were with DWSD and move into a more sustainable system going forward. So long answer to a short question. I'm happy to answer specific questions, but just know this is something that everybody is working very, very hard on.
Yeah, I'd like to reinforce that a little bit too. I know Jay's was during the creation of GLEWA. She played a part in that. We worked together a lot on that, and Bob Datto, and he was always out there trying to make everything honest. And so from that beginning, we've been up and down on this issue. It goes away from the conscious, and then it comes back when something new comes up. So yeah, we've been working on this for some time. My office, Kelsey Cook, my attorney and manager, has been following this. Carrie Cox, who does all our, systems that work with other communities, we've been following this very closely. We have just a slight work we'd like to do on this resolution to, for wording wise. Otherwise, we very strongly support some kind of message that we need to have a really collaborative effort to clean this up. So if we maybe could discuss with Commissioner Moss and within our organization, maybe come back at the next meeting of this, and we can pass this. That's something that would be more supportive. As Jay mentioned, we have this newer court decision that really supports our side. This is more for later part of this 10-year process that's been going on. And so I think that we're with the governor at least expressing that this desire and that the legislature already forwarded $25 million towards GLEWA. I think we have this chance to hopefully maybe work with all the systems. The one thing that I really have an issue with is the idea that Highland Park would rebuild their water plant, because really already they're hooked up to the Great Lakes Water Authority, which already has more than enough capacity than we need. To build something extra beyond that just seems like a real something that doesn't economically and sustainability makes sense. So I mean, we still need to work with the region, Highland Park itself, and the governor's office and the state. So I think we're hopefully getting this first step going, and I'd like to work further with you to develop this and maybe come back to the next meeting with some more wordsmithing on that. But if that's all right, I mean that would be my position if we could do that.
Well, I want to hear from Commissioner Moss, because he wanted to respond to Commissioner Nash.
Thank you. Commissioner Nash, I'd be more than happy, more than amenable to work with your office on the resolution. Very happy to do that and get back in the next.
Commissioner Spiz.
Well, I was going to ask a question about the same topic. Do we want to table it and set it back for the next committee meeting, or can we get it through this committee and you guys can work together and have an amendment ready for the board meeting on the 7th?
I would say, I was going to make the suggestion to move it to the next meeting so they have time to work it out. We are comfortable with it, so if we could pass it unanimously before it goes to the board.
Commissioner Moss, what do you think?
Works for me.
Okay.
If it's the committee's pleasure. If it's the committee's pleasure, I'm certainly happy to do it. No worries. I'm very happy to work
I
with
prefer
Commissioner
sooner than
Nash.
later, but that's just the way I like to operate.
Commissioner Cavell.
It would, if, Commissioner Nash, would it, if we pass this now and our board meeting is on June 7th, where we could make the amendments that you and Commissioner Moss agree on, is that enough time for you all to figure that out?
Well, I want to do the amendment to make it to the next meeting. So we have time to look at the changes, Commissioner Moss, Commissioner Nash, arm wrestle and get everything out. And then
I don't imagine it'll be that. I think it'll be quite collaborative.
So I make a motion to, I don't know if it's table or move it to the next committee. To postpone to the next committee meeting, June 15th.
To postpone.
Postpone, yes. I need a second. Supported by Commissioner Charles. Prompt call the vote.
So this is to postpone.
Everyone's cool with that?
To the next meeting on June 15th.
Yeah. Okay.
Is it the same one again?
You have 4
Okay.
yeas, 1 nay.
4 yeas, 1 nay. So it's been postponed to the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, and Commissioner Nash. I call you, you call me. Figure it out.
We can reach out to you. That would be great.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Figuring June
Thank you.
7th is enough time, right?
Now we have, thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you very much.
Now we have our last agenda item, Board of Commissioners resolution appropriating additional American Rescue Plan Fund Act local fiscal recovery funds and authorizing the release of grant funding for local government critical infrastructure planning grant program. It's been moved by Commissioner Spiz, supported by Commissioner Wiper. And we have Commissioner Spiz as the presenter.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. As we approved as part of communication was the original approval that the Board of Commissioners provided for the critical infrastructure grant that we put together a few months ago for our CVTs in the amount of $1.9 million. We had a much better response than we expected, which is all good. And if you all recall, the intent of this is to put some seed money out there for the CVT so they could put their plans together for infrastructure projects. So when the infrastructure money did come down for the federal government, we were ready, right? So it was good to see that we, I believe it was 38 communities provided projects or requested additional funds. So we were, out of the 1.9, we were only able to fund 21 of those. So there's 17 others out there that were requesting funds. And they're not duplicates. Originally, there were some duplicates. We took all the duplicates out, so each community can only do it once. So what we would like to do is to make sure each community that submitted a request for grant funding could get that grant funding to get their project going. So to do so, we need an additional $1.5 million out of ARPA funds to do this, and that's what this resolution is requesting approval for.
All right, any discussion? Commissioner Cavell.
This is a great idea, and I'm super happy to support it. One thing I just want to say in general about ARPA, because it dawned on me when I was talking to somebody, I forget who, but as I think we all have seen, right, the staff have been kind enough to put together this lovely spreadsheet and PowerPoint and all, or pie chart that shows that we have something in the range of at least 140 million. A couple questions about the math, but we got at least $125 million left in ARPA. So I just want to put this out to everyone on the commission that whether or not we like an idea personally or we think it will serve our district, we can, I think, remove ourselves from thinking about, from like a scarcity mindset of someone's going to take something from us to, oh, this is good for our community, or this is good for Oxford, or this is good for Ferndale. And I don't have to be a super fan of it. I just have to not be morally opposed to it. And the threshold that the executive makes us go through in terms of making projects viable means that I think there's, to be kind of like blunt, there's enough to go around for all of our good ideas that serve our specific communities and their needs. So I just want to make sure everyone, just as much as we can, just talk about not arguing over what's good or bad, but making sure that we are filling a need, which there are a lot of. So we should say yes to every ARPA request that comes to this table.
Within reason.
Well, that's, yeah.
I like his better.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Cavell. Any other discussion? Seeing none, prompt the vote, call the roll.
You have 6 yeas, 0 nays.
6 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Now we move on to our second public comment. Anybody from the public would like to speak?
Of course.
You'll be afforded 3 minutes. State your name and community you're from, please.
So my name's Catherine Kennedy. I'm here from Lake Orion. And I actually spent quite a bit of time this morning trying to prepare for this meeting because the data wasn't there before. However, I was late because of new construction southbound Telegraph that blocked Dixie entirely, sent me all the way down to Cass, all the way to Elizabeth Lake, and all the way back to Telegraph to eventually go north on Telegraph to get here very late. So I apologize for my lateness. But I do have some very important things. I was concerned about the consent agenda items today. 8A, number 56821, 8B, number 56711, 8C, number 56782, 8D, number 56812, 8E, number 56821. I have a series of questions. One, why is it in all cases is the introduction and background information for the resolution completely blank? Number two, how did Michael Andrews create all 5/12/22 documents based on the 9/29/21 full board approval, which appears to match the inserted resolutions that may well have been disallowed during the 2020 audit, since they originally came up during an inserted final August 31st budget review hearing? I think they were labeled C10 and C11 in those documents. The SPIS resolution about the ARPA, Government Critical Infrastructure Planning Grant Programs, number 21382, to appropriate $2.4 million approved on October 13th, 2021. Because of that reference, I had to go back to my notes to find that the local government critical infrastructure planning grant was approved at a meeting December 8th, 2021. Now, let me get that straight. So the planning was done almost 2 months after spending and appropriating the $2 million ARPA? So, Next thing is the sheriffs. I was glad to see the tremendous rapport of the groups in the sheriff department here, and was shocked by Mr. Cavill's comments say, oh, we have plenty of money. Well, only if you don't know how to do the math, I'm sorry. There were adjustments to the budget for 2021 because we actually have a small structural imbalance is how the county was declaring it in prior months. I think it was $4 million a month. We actually overspent all of the millions that we got. So maybe we didn't keep track well enough. Maybe it was because 25% of the businesses didn't survive COVID. Maybe it was because everybody in the county seemed to have gotten a 15% raise in the very beginning when they gave us the ARPA to structure and strengthen the government. So the government got bigger by 399 positions under Coulter's budget, obliterated a lot
Thank
of
you,
law
Ms. Kennedy. Can you
enforcement,
wrap
but
up your
created
comments?
a whole new indigent services that exceeded the amount that was cut from the sheriff. Thank you very much.
Oh, there we go. All right. Anybody else from the public would like to speak? Anybody else from the public? Seeing none? None from the public? Any other business? Any other business? Bueller? Hearing none, we'll call the Economic Development Infrastructure Committee closed. What is it? 11:34.